Amazing performance. How happy are you to come in here, one of the youngest fighters on the roster, and get yet, I think, the 6th career submission victory?
どういう風に感じられますか、今回の試合。I love you, thank you!
Meat boy and man, what a show! Heels and rippers, but they move so slow. Time the main event, what a bore! Perez the dog won't ask for more. It ram, lock, ram, in a hold so tight. Antonio Broccoli putting up a fight. Brady stand, but he steals off that. What is this trash we're looking at? Oh no, it's a fight not fair. In the ring where the heroes fail. Don't know how we came around. Just a waste on this battleground.
Episode 176, Meat Boy UFC KFC in the rear view. We got UFC Trash on this week's breakdowns, and before we jump into the Meatlock and all the picks for this week, which it's a scrappy card, but obviously we have to put out the locks always. I want to recap KFC because you got a good look of all the fights you were watching start to finish. So right away we can start with the L of a Meatlock. Thiago Moises went out there, laid an absolute dud, got absolutely smoked by the homie. And what were your thoughts on that one? Because it was 3-0 dominance for Ludovic Klein. We sort of thought Thiago would have the advantages basically everywhere where Ludovic ended up having those advantages. So what were your thoughts on the L of a Meatlock?
Yeah, you know, the Meatlock missed last week, but we're coming back strong this one. Truly unfortunate to see him go out like a bum. Thought he could get it done, but he just couldn't.
Yeah, it was crazy. He shaved the beard. It seemed like the all the confidence, all the energy, the aura, as the kids might say, had gone with the shaving. So Ludovic absolutely dominated Thiago Moises. We missed that one, but we were on a nice little streak before then, and our 100th Meatlock, apparently we're going to have to earn on this Trash Apex card, so we'll get it this way. We'll go the long route, Meat Boy, but nonetheless, let's break down a couple other fights. Puna Soriano got the dub over Miguel Baeza, Carmel Thunder. You and I both called the dog on that one, so good stuff from Puna. You were very bullish on Puna early on in his UFC run. Did his performance against Carmel Thunder earn your confidence back, or was it a lucky win and Miguel Baeza is just really that bad?
No, definitely earned my confidence back. Miguel Baeza is definitely that bad also, though. But Puna's looking great. He's looking strong. He showed that D2, D3 wrestling of his, and he absolutely mauled him from beginning to end. So pumped to see his gas tank has improved. Just all around, he's really improved, and hopefully that gives him that confidence that can get him back to that, hype contender run he had going on previously.
Yeah, we'll see what the ceiling is. Shout out D3 Wrestling for sure. And in the next bout, Dusty Dink, Dustin Stoltzfus, he probably was a Division 3 wrestler somewhere. He got smoked by Bruno Ferreira, but I know we were talking and you kind of liked what you heard from Dusty Dink early on prior to the Hulk getting that spinning back elbow. I think there's like less than 10 spinning back elbow finishes in UFC history, so you don't see it too often. But what did you see from Stoltzfus and how do you end up getting slept?
Yeah, Dusty Dinkelman, he was absolutely winning the fight. I thought he was going to dominate for 3 rounds. It seemed like it was going his way. Hulk is so bad, but you gotta put respect where he's got power. He threw 8 spinning elbows in a row, and they landed because Dusty Dinkelman gassed out by grappling, gassed out by being a bomb basically, and somehow Bruno just threw the YOLO meat bombs and connected. And for whatever reason, once Dusty started gas a little bit, he just threw his game plan out the window because his game plan was absolutely working. He was dominating, he was winning. And then once it went out the window, he tried to trade a guy with arms that are about 1 foot long, so about 5 feet shorter than his arms. He started trading with him in the pocket, which made no sense. With little Hulk arms, little T-Rex guy, it was inevitable that he was going to knock him out. So I don't know what Dusty was thinking. His fight IQ might be 0, but he should have won that fight, but the IQ was out of the window.
Yeah, game plan went out the door, and I'm not sure we'll ever get the Body Bags revenge story against Dusty Dink, but I would love to see Body Bags take on Bruno the Hulk Ferreira. That could be an interesting fight, and perhaps Body Bags could beat the next best thing, the guy that beat the guy that snapped your ankle, or your arm, rather. But Raul Rosas Jr., we had meatlocked him initially. We didn't like how he pulled out minutes before. There was the stomach ache in the back, and ultimately we end up swapping a couple months later, going to Thiago Moises for the absolute L. But had we stuck to our guns and just rode that Rosas Jr. hype train, this time with better odds, we were spot on still, because we still picked Rosas, but our confidence had waned a little bit. So what'd you see from Rosas Jr.? The kid's 19 years old. Is he a champ?
Yeah, Rosas, man, he he's very good. He looked very good, but that first round was a little scary. It did look like he got a little frightened with that teep kick to start off the round. Did look like he wasn't loose, he wasn't feeling himself. But man, his grappling is no joke. His wrestling, his pace is pretty insane. It was pretty dominant other than that first round and the first 30 seconds, I would say. Pretty dominant by, Rosas. But man, I just don't see how he isn't champ in the next 10 years. The kid's 19. He doesn't know how to strike. I do worry about that if he does. I mean, we already saw what happened when he fights a real fighter. That's really complete. But man, if he just learns how to strike in a year or two, I just don't know how this kid's going to lose. The kid's an absolute monster.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we saw Chase Hooper even just a couple years ago really struggle with the striking, and he's looking better and better now than ever before. So perhaps Rosas will be on a similar trajectory, and it almost seems like if you compare Chase Hooper at 19 versus Rosas Jr. at 19, I think this version of Rosas is probably even better than that version of Hooper. So if he keeps progressing, then sky's the limit for that kid for sure. But great win nonetheless. Fake Diego Sanchez got smoked, and a couple more. And always, Meat Boys, the timestamps for the breakdowns for UFC Trash Apex are in the comments. So if you're not trying to hear this recap, skip forward. Go check out the locks nonetheless. But in the co-meet, Meat Boy, Dominic Reyes, JV Baseball took on Dustin Jacoby. We were bullish on Jacoby. I thought Jacoby would get a finish, easy light work, under 1.5. But Dominic Reyes did that. So is JV Baseball back in the title pick?
Yeah, apparently JV Baseball player is absolutely back. He looked great, got that KO, beautiful knockout. Happy to see him back in the good path. Seems that his mind is right. He's found the Lord and all that. So, praise to him. Pumped to see if he can make another title run. I do worry about his chin, but his chin was not tested last weekend, so that is a great sign. If he can keep not letting his chin get tested, I think Dom might do some good work for a bit.
Yeah, I don't doubt that either, Meat Boy. And he seems like a guy where he just needed that one win, right? He kept losing, kept getting finished. So to me, he seems like a guy like with a first round finish over Jacoby, his confidence might be back, right? And a confident Dominic Reyes is a guy who went toe to toe with John Jones. Many believe beat John Jones. So if Dominic Reyes, with his newly focused mindset, is getting married, seems like a lot of good things are happening in his life. It could be a problem for a lot of guys in the division. He was very scary prior to that controversial decision in that title fight. So great stuff for Dominic Reyes. We can sometimes give JV Baseball a hard time, but was super proud of his performance. That was next level stuff, and we have high respect for Dustin Jacoby. That dude is no joke. So great stuff from Reyes. Called for some chicken afterwards. We love that at Meat Boy MMA, but nonetheless, the meat event. I had Cannonier, you had Imavov, and I know you even have some rookie gold prism heaters of Nasruddin Imavov. So very cool for him to get a 4th round finish. What were your thoughts on that fight? Did you think that it was going to go his way based on the early moments, or did you think Jared was going to get that done upon watching round 1?
Yeah, round 1 was a little sus. I was kind of worried. He looked real good, was moving nicely. Imavov just couldn't really figure it out, it seemed. But then round 2 looked a lot better. Round 3 was very good. Round 4 was, the end of the story. He rocked him pretty good. I thought it was a pretty solid stoppage. Like, sure, he didn't go out. But let's be honest, when you are ducking and turning your back in a fight and running, I feel like that should be tapping out equivalently. Like, you to turn your head in a fight is already crazy, let alone turn around and sprint the other way as like you're being chased by the boogeyman, which apparently he was, and that was Imavov. So I thought that was actually a pretty good stoppage with that body language. The end was inevitable. Like, anyone that was kind of, upset about it, it was just because they had possible skin on Cannonier, which is truly unfortunate. But either way, it was still 3-1. It was about to be 4-1. It was kind of inevitable.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that stoppage because definitely a lot of chatter online, some believing that it was an early stoppage, but the fact that the fight was basically a pick'em, 50% of the action was essentially on Killer Gorilla, so of course 50% at least of the salty commenter will be screaming early stoppage, but it's Jason Herzog. I think he's a pretty consistent ref. Rarely do you see him make mistakes, and to your point, I mean, how many times did Jared Cannonier turn his back? Like, his body language wasn't there. I don't know if it was Chael or if it was Rogan or someone this week said that Jason Herzog saved him from going out on that next punch, and you can argue, I mean, is that his job to save him from something that hasn't happened yet, or is it his job to intervene when it actually does? But I'm with you. I liked the stoppage. I thought that the end was inevitable, like you said. So, any last thoughts on UFC KFC, or you want to swap us over to the trash?
Yeah, let's swap us right into the meat trash.
Yeah, throw us straight in the bin because, again, we took the L last week, but MEATLOCK 100 should be this week. Homie Douglas Silva de Andrade, and he's a light favorite in this one, taking his 29-5-1 solid overall record into this one against Miles Johns, who is minus 108. And to Miles Johns' credit, he hasn't lost since 2022. It was against John Castaneda, and that was also a fight where Miles Johns failed a drug test, but since then, he has gone 3-0. He also popped for Turinabol, though, and had one of those turn to a no contest over Dan Argueta. So just don't know what you're getting from Miles Johns and whether or not he will even clear a drug test. But in this one, we just think Douglas Silva is having the experience. The odds are close, and Miles Johns we just haven't been too impressed with. And when analyzing his recent, I mean, Cody Gibson, a 36-year-old fighter who got back into the UFC fold through one of the worst seasons of Ultimate Fighter in existence. And then that other one was against Vince Morales, who takes a lot of L's as well. Whereas Douglas Silva just came in against Cody Stamann. While, yes, Cody Stamann doesn't win any fights either, look at Silva de Andrade's losses. The dude only loses to Lerone Murphy, beast. Said Nurmagomedov, a very close fight, who he's also a beast. So we just think that the losses of Douglas Silva are way more impressive than those of Miles Johns. What are your thoughts on this meat lock? How do you think Douglas Silva gets us our 100th meat lock? And is this going to be early and often?
I think this is going to be early and often. This card is not the best, but this is the best of the MEATLOCK. With these kind of odds too, it's kind of juicy. I do like this. I think this might be either a quick early and often or a snoozer to decision.
Yeah, I buy that. It might be a snoozer of a decision, and it might be one where our boy has to grind it out, and ultimately Miles Johns is just on the wrong end of rounds. But whether it's an early and often finish, whether it is a snoozer decision, I just don't see a world where Douglas de Andrade loses this fight, and I think the fighter comp that gives me the most confidence in MEATLOCK is Douglas Silva, if we remember, finished Sergey Morozov in the second round. That was a fight where he was basically dominant start to finish, and Sergey Morozov, make no mistake, was a dude who made his debut against Umar Nurmagomedov, fought well prior to getting finished, and we know Umar has been fed what the UFC thought were a lot of cans, but Sergey came in with his 15-3 record, fought well, and has picked up some wins since then. So to have such a dominant win for our boy Silva over Morozov, guy who only has another loss to Umar, to me gives me at least enough confidence as a pick'em to take him over Miles Johns, who is a pretty mid up and down fighter. In this one, we're keeping it simple, throwing it down, an easy 112 to net 100, get us MEATLOCK number 100. And yeah, like you said, this card is straight up trash, but we have to find what is best available, and we think Douglas Silva offers just that. So, any last thoughts on the MEATLOCK, meat boy?
No, a lock nonetheless. Let's get to the other trash.
Yeah, crack us over to the next one. It's Nate Maness, who is a sizable favorite in this one, minus 440, which I was a little bit surprised to see. I'll get your take on it in a second. Jimmy Flick, plus 340, is a sizable dog, despite having come in with a nice finish over Malcolm Gordon just a couple months ago. And Jimmy Flick is a guy who's had a very up and down career, retired at one point, came back at another, and was fed to some pretty tough fighters upon returning, right? Charles Johnson, easy light work finish for him in the first round, and then Alessandro Costa, who is absolutely no joke, finished Jimmy Flick as well. So he was fighting for his career essentially when he took on Malcolm Gordon, and as a sizable dog, he ended up getting back in the column with a beautiful finish, and it was that patented arm triangle choke that he's submitted a lot of guys throughout his career with. So Jimmy Flick winning with his signature sub as a plus 340 dog might sound a little bit interesting against Nate Maness, who is also up and down. He's 3-2 in the UFC and has losses to Umar and to Deer, but he too is coming off a win over Mateus Mendonça, and it was performance of the night. So that was probably the best Nate Maness we've seen to date, and really the odds makers were pretty blown away by the performance, the fact that he's basically a minus 500 favorite. So what are your thoughts on this one? Maness versus Flick. Any chance Jimmy Flick cashes as another dog?
Yeah, I can see Jimmy Flick getting this done. I mean, to see these kind of odds for this, it really blows my mind, because I would have assumed this would have been more close to a pick'em, but it seems that they'll be letting us pick a dog.
Yeah, so, I mean, the odds do suggest inspiration for Flick, right? That's a bullish plus 340 for sure. But technically in this fight, do you think that he gets this one done? And if you do think he actually picks up the win, what are the advantages you will see Jimmy Flick having over Nate Maness?
I could see Jimmy Flick, maybe having a better grappling in this. I don't know. This is definitely, in my opinion, this is a pick'em. It's a very close fight. I'm very surprised to see these odds. Both these guys, they're not the best fighters, but they are kind of OGs. They are solid. But I think he's going to have the advantage just slightly in the grappling and the gas tank, maybe even in the striking, but I don't know. This is going to be a good fight. I like these odds. That's the biggest thing. These odds are really a no-brainer in my opinion, because it's a pick'em in my book.
Yeah, this one's close for me. Dude, I've been going back and forth, and I'm with you. I do think that there are some interesting odds for Jimmy Flick, but I don't know. The odds makers are just super bullish on Maness in this one, and with that recent performance of the night finish, I'll reluctantly pick Maness, but at minus 440, I agree with you. There's absolutely nothing there, because I think this should be closer to a pick'em as well. Maybe Nate Maness as a slight favorite, but 5-1 to me seems a little. So I'll go Nate Maness. I'm going to say by third round finish, but definitely not bullish on the pick. And if you are on Flick and he cashes as a dog, then that's good stuff for me. Any last thoughts on that, Scrapper?
No, solid fight, fun fight. Like the odds. If you're a DGen, you should like it too. On to the next.
Yeah, for sure. And the next one, you might like these odds too, because Brady Heastan is another dude who had a lot of hype at one point, but has since been humbled, and the odds makers have noticed, because he is a slight dog in this one against Garrett Armfield. Is 10-3, riding a nice 2-fight win streak. He just picked up a nice win over Brad Katana just a few months ago, and we saw Brad win just 4 days ago. So good stuff from Armfield. His finish over Toshiyama Kazama was also nice. That was in Asian territory. Armfield, I believe, was a decent dog in that one too. So his only recent loss is to Obama. He got submitted in that one, but Brady Heastan is 6-2, 2-1 in the UFC, and riding a nice 2-fight win streak with a finish over Danab Bakari and a decision over Fernie Garcia, who someone who loses to Ricky Tercios, though, was able to beat Brady Heastan, and that's what I want to pinpoint, Meat Boy, because that to me worries me. And if you're losing to Tercios, then I think Armfield can get it done, but that was a little while ago at this point. It was over 2 years ago, and Brady has won 2 straight. So what are your thoughts on the Ricky split decision loss, and should we ignore it and just pay attention to what Brady's done recently?
Yeah, no, man, yeah, Brady lost that split decision to Ricky Tercio, which that is not a good look. Tercio did look phenomenal in that fight, and it's been downhill ever since, while Brady's been uphill, and I don't know if it was a nervous thing or what, because Brady was a big favorite in that. And so I think Brady's going to get this done, to be honest. I like the kid. I like him a lot in this. But, I mean, Garrett did just beat Brad Katona, who did win the Ultimate Fighter most recently. So if Brady could get this done, that to me is a or a redemption arc, and he basically won the Ultimate Fighter. So I'm rooting for him. This is definitely a tough fight for Brady, but Brady's wrestling is pretty darn good. I'm hoping that he's leveled it up big time, and maybe he can get a TKO punch like his last fight, YOLO Meat Bomb, and get the win. But I do like him as a dog.
Yeah, I was going to ask you stylistically how you think this plays out, because Brady Heastan, yeah, great wrestler, right? We know him for such, and Armfield, meanwhile, is solid with the hands, boxer, very accurate, has a solid gas tank as well. So I think that for as long as this fight is standing, Garrett Armfield might be peaking your boy Brady, but will Brady have the grappling required? Will he have the gas tank required? And is that where you see him having success over Garrett Armfield, who's more of a striker?
Yeah, I think that is going to be, and hopefully he can sap his energy, keep that high-level wrestling going, and not get gassed out, and keep him on the ground, and get a gritty decision, or a TKO ground and pound, or at least just gas him out and get a standing meat bomb third round like he did last fight.
Yeah, it should be interesting if Brady has truly leveled up in the time since. Then I can see that going down. I guess my only pushback would be Brad Katona sounds a lot like Brady Heastan, and is Brady Heastan better than Brad Katona? I don't know. So for that reason alone, I think a little bit of MMA math, obviously, but I'm going to take Garrett Armfield. I had him in that fight against Toshiomi Kazama, so a little bit of spiritual connection to Garrett Armfield, and perhaps I'm wearing rose-colored glasses, thinking he'll continue in this one, but I think he picks up a decision in this one over Brady Heastan. Minus 175, though, similar to the last fight, I feel like this should be more of a pick-em. We'll see if Brady can cash as a plus $145. So I'll take Armfield by decision. Are you going Heastan by finish? Or
Yeah, I'm gonna go decision. I think on this one, it'll be very mind blowing if he does. I'm hoping that it's a wrestling gritty, gas him out, grind him out, and get a dominant decision.
Yeah, and we'll see how the homie Armfield deals with that if so. So let us know down low. We're kind of split on the pick, but we do think he goes the distance. Let us know if you're taking the armchair or you're rolling with the opponent. But swap us through, Meatball. We got 2 to go. Thankfully, we got 2 to go. We got Ikram Lockram, the only loss to Hamzat, 15-1, undefeated in the UFC. This dude is the next hype train, and the UFC seemingly are just him a free one on a co-meet slot at the Apex. So it seemed to me like this card was lacking. There were many holes, so the UFC last second is like, yo, let's get Ikram Lockram on here, get him a free dub. But we've been doing a little bit of inspection on Antonio Broccoli. This dude is absolutely massive, 6'5", former light heavyweight, trains with Poatan. He's a dude who, perhaps if he's making his debut at 185, will have need to made some lifestyle changes. I mean, 6'5", 185 is a different kind of beast, and to backtrack a little bit, he was 11-3, earned his contract through Dana White Contender Series, basically like 5 years ago at this point. But he's the one who immediately after the fight popped hot. Dana says, "Oh, that stuff shouldn't be in your system for any reason." Cut him basically 5 seconds after getting a first-round finish and a contract. So pops for the anabolics. Has some success, has some failures since, but he's getting his opportunity in this one against Ikram Lockram and plus $600. So I know that you think there's some bullishness associated with Antonio Ciccoli in this one, but are you really going to pick against Ikram Lockram?
You know, I can't pick against him because he potentially is the future GOAT. It's so hard to say that he's not a good fighter. But this mystery man, it seems 50-50. He could be either an absolute monster, biggest upset ever, or an absolute bomb, and they're throwing a dog a bone. I'm very excited to see this one. Very curious. I mean, this guy is a monster. He's 6'5", coming in at 185 for a debut. He's usually a 205er, so he's going to be a big 185er. I definitely worry for Ikram. I don't know if he's ever fought anyone that tall before or that big, but it'll be interesting to see where this goes. I gotta imagine Ikram finishes him like first, second round, just picks him apart, hopefully hits him in the calves, has a good game plan, calf kick, touch him up, counter, and then by second, third round, kid is gassed and gets snuffed. But it'll be very interesting to see. I hope that Ikram does not lose because I want to see Ikram versus Hamzat rematch, but with these odds, I am completely staying away, and it would not be a bad idea to throw $5, $10, $20 max on his opponent. Those odds are absolute juice, and this guy's a monster, and he looks to be an alright fighter, so anything's possible.
Yeah, anything is possible. Plus 600 is juicy, and 6'5 is massive for sure. And touch on the height and size that Malvado will be offering to Ikram. The biggest dude Ikram has fought was Hamzat. He had Hamzat kind of rocked in that first round. Ultimately, he took his only L and got finished himself in that one. But the tallest dude he fought was Hamzat. He fought Dennis Talulin, who's 6'1 and pretty bad. And in the UFC, the biggest dude he's fought was Phil Haas. And Phil Haas is under 6 foot and pretty bad himself as well. So great point in the sense that this is a different size beast, literally, that Ikram Lokram hasn't seen yet. But I don't think the size will be enough. I wonder what this dude will look like coming in, making his 185 debut. I wonder if he will make weight. You'll have to let us know a couple days from now if he does. But this dude shows up absolutely shredded at 185 then. To your point, it could be interesting. Maybe worth a little 5 ding or so. But in this one, I got to ride Ikram Lokram. This dude seems like an absolute beast. And the way he's just picking up early, easy light work finishes over the likes of Phil Hawes, over the likes of Worley Alves. To me, I imagine this being the same exact thing. I think the Brockman Tricoli getting slept in round 1. And I actually like Ikram Lokram. He's been doing a lot of TKOs, getting a lot of KOs, and I think there could be an interesting club and sub opportunity. He picks up the neck of a Brazilian and makes a statement in that regard. So I'll take Ikram Lokram by first round submission. But hey, Tricoli, Broccoli man, kind of interesting at plus 600.
Definitely Broccoli at plus 600 is definitely interesting to look at.
It's interesting. Let us know if it's interesting enough for you to part with your skrill, but for Meat Boy's sake, we're both on Ikram Lokram. Swap us over, Meat Boy, 1 to go. Finally made it to the end. It's Alex Perez, 25-8. Stepping up again, basically, on short notice to step into a meat event against Tatsuro Taira, who's 15-0, 5-0 in the UFC. This kid is all the rage out of Japan and seems to be the next hype train. And if you notice it, I mean, they are allowing him to headline this card, and obviously this card is trash, but just the opportunity to headline a card against Alex Perez, who is basically like the always #1 contender, essentially, at flyweight, is a huge opportunity for Tatsuro Taira, and huge indicator of him just skipping the line, essentially, right? Because his last win was against Carlos Hernandez. You won't find anywhere near the ranking. Now he's fighting Alex Perez, who's basically the #1 contender. Is this going to, without even providing too much context on Alex Perez, because all the OG sweaties know who he is, do you think that this is too much of a levels test and will be too much pressure for Tatsuro Taira, or Tatsuro that good, even at just 22, 23 years old, and this kid is literally going to be future champ in the next 6
Yeah, no, this is a crazy matchup. This is truly a levels test of a levels test because Perez doesn't lose to anyone unless you're the champ, pretty much. So if Tatsuro smokes him, I am sold. I am all aboard the Tatsuro hype train. I'm already on board. I'm picking him. I think he's going to dominate Perez, but it would not surprise me if he actually gets dominated by Perez. It's like, oh, well, it kind of makes sense. He hasn't really fought anyone, and he's kind of jumping right to the truest level test in that division. So this is a make it or break it. Hopefully there's no pressure that gets to him or anything like that, but I'm rooting for Tatsuro, so I got to pick him. I really hope he gets this done, but this is a tough one indeed.
Yeah, I'm super torn on it. The odds makers like Tatsuro, right? He's floating around -200 and Perez about +150, but Tapology also is following that same vein. About 80% is rolling Tatsuro Taira and basically all copper for the submission. So they think that the takedown and smash game plan that he's been implementing against everyone else is what Alex Perez is going to receive. But to that point, I mean, this is quite a levels test. Alex Perez is a dude who really only loses to studs. I mean, if you look at his losses, Benavidez finished him, peak Benavidez. Your boy Figgy finished him, peak Figgy, and that was for the belts. And then Pantoja, Makayev, like, these are great fighters. And we were doubting Alex Perez the last time we saw him just a few weeks ago against Matthias Nicolau. And as a dog, back against the wall, essentially Jimmy Flick style, he got an easy light work performance of the night, first round finish over Nicolau. So what did you like out of Perez in that last contest? And even if Perez shows up as peak Perez, the version we just saw, do you still think that won't be enough to deal with Tatsuro Taira?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Tatsudo is the real deal. I gotta stick with that until I see him lose, and this is a big one. So if he loses, maybe he isn't meant for greatness, but I'm rooting for him. So I think he will be good enough. I think he'll dominate on the ground. I think he'll manhandle Perez, and I think Perez is gonna get a little bit of a faggy relapse of like, oh no, not another absolute killer.
Yeah, perhaps he has those figgy flashbacks for sure, and tough meat boy because I do like what Perez the version of saw against Palau a few weeks ago, and massive jump up in competition. If Taira can get this one down to the ground and just implement his smash game plan, then I think this dude could be your champ. And I gotta imagine if he goes in there and picks up a finish over Alex Perez and does so impressively. I mean, we saw how Steve Erceg just got a title fight basically out of nowhere. So Taira to me would be easy next title fight. So I'm gonna roll with you a little bit reluctantly. I'll take Tatsuro Taira to continue this hype train and continue the win streak and stay undefeated. But Alex Perez survives the first round, survives the second round. I can see him leaning on his OG veteran status, always there gas tank, and finding ways to make it interesting in rounds 3, 4, and 5. So pick is Taira. I'll take him by submission, but I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on Alex Perez, round 3 finish, round 4 finish, and round 5 finish. Maybe even decision if it's close to plus 400, because I think that Perez, later this fight goes, might have some life for sure. So I'll take Taira by sub, but there's a pathway for Perez. Is that kind of how you feel?
Yeah, there's definitely a pathway Perez. Perez is a no joke, but I don't know. I'm really hoping that Tatsuda is the real deal because I want to see some new blood, some new future champ, and I think this kid might be it. But if he's not, we're gonna find out this weekend because Perez is gonna absolutely snuff him if he is not, if he's a phony.
Yeah, 100% there's only one way to find out, and the UFC is obviously giving him his opportunity. So great stuff for Tatsuro. We're both taking him in this Meat Boy MMA breakdown. So lastly, Meat Boy, we only took down 5 this week. I mean, it was kind of difficult to pick the best 5 pieces from the dumpster, but we did it nonetheless. Last week wasn't our best week. We're definitely getting our 100th Meatlock. Douglas Silva's cashing, but 5-0, 4-1. What are you going this week?
I'm feeling this is a tough one. I'm feeling 3-2 on this one.
I'm going to say 3-2 as well. There's a couple fights that could definitely go either way. So let's call it 3-2. Let's just get this 100th Meatlock doink with Douglas Silva de Andrade. So any last thoughts on UFC Trash, Meatball?
No, this is an absolute trasher, an absolute basher. Make sure to smash that meat, subscribe, and throw in the comments which fight you're pumped for and if this card is an absolute banger or not.